Hello, dreamer. I'll be your storyteller tonight. Like and subscribe for more bedtime stories and share in the comments where you're listening from. It began like every sleepover does. Too much soda, greasy pizza, cheap laughter echoing through the night. We were 5 kids huddled on Lily's living room floor. The old grandfather clock in the hallway ticked louder than our voices. Her house was ancient, creaking with every draft. The kind of house that remembers. I tried to ignore it, but there was something about that place. The wallpaper peeled like old skin. The ceilings groaned when no one moved. And always, there was that smell of damp earth, faint but inescapable. We told ghost stories, our voices rising and falling with the storm outside. But even as we laughed, my eyes kept drifting toward the staircase. Toward the basement. Her parents said it was off limits. Rotten floorboards, they claimed. Unsafe. But I'd heard the whispers. Lily's brother told us about the knocking, the scratches, the voice that sometimes called his name from behind that locked wooden door. We teased him, pretended not to believe, but I felt it deep down. Something was alive in that basement and it was waiting. We should have run. But Lily leaned closer. Her hand hovered over the latch. "Hello?" she whispered. Silence stretched. Then a voice, thin, childlike. "Let me out." The others gasped. My stomach dropped. The voice trembled. "Please, it's dark." I'm so scared, tears burned my eyes. Every part of me screamed, "Don't listen." But Lily's hand shook with something stronger than fear. Curiosity. The latch screamed as she pulled it free. The door creaked open just an inch. Cold air burst out, biting our skin, and then fingers, pale, gray, too thin, curled through the gap, nails blackened like rot. We shrieked, shoved Lily back, slammed the door shut, but the fingers didn't retreat fast enough. For one horrifying second, they bent wrong, broke, flattened before slipping away into the dark. The door rattled, harder, harder, and the voice, no longer childlike, roared, "Let me out." We bolted. Up the stairs, through the living room, scattering blankets and pillows. The basement door slammed shut behind us. But the knocking didn't stop, it climbed. Up the walls, through the ceiling. Every surface trembled. Thud, thud, thud. Like the house itself was alive, beating with its own heart. We locked ourselves in Lily's bedroom, huddled on the floor. The knocking spread. Floorboards shuddered. The air quaked with every blow, and then silence. But silence is worse, because silence means listening. And in that silence we heard it, breathing, not outside, not in the hall, but inside the room, slow, wet, labored, like lungs filling with dirt. We didn't move. We didn't breathe. Until dawn burned through the curtains. Only then did the sound stop. I never went back. I don't know if Lily's family ever opened that basement again. I don't think they had to, because something opened us. 2 months later, they moved away. No explanation. Just gone, but the house still stands empty, boarded. Windows like blind eyes staring at the street, and sometimes, late at night when I pass, I hear it. Knock, knock, knock. Not from the basement anymore. From upstairs, from behind the windows, like it followed her family up the stairs, room by room, until there was nowhere left to hide. And now it waits. Not for Lily, not for me, but for whoever dares turn the key again, and sometimes, I swear it knocks in rhythm with my heart. It was October, the kind of October where the air cuts through your hoodie like knives. Brianna had begged us to stay at her grandmother's old farmhouse. Her parents were away for the weekend and she promised it would be legendary. "Think about it," she grinned. Creaky floors, haunted halls, and no parents to tell us to turn the music down. Kelsey was in instantly. She thrived on chaos, and me. I laughed and pretended I wasn't scared. I always do that, pretend. The farmhouse stood alone, swallowed by cornfields. Its roof sagged and every window reflected the night sky like blind eyes. The porch light buzzed, casting a weak glow, but the rest of the house was dark, as if it hated electricity. We dragged our sleeping bags into the living room. The wallpaper peeled in long curls and the air smelled faintly of mold and something older. Something sour. Brianna lit a fireplace, but the flames barely warmed the room, and then she pulled it out. From her backpack, wrapped in a black cloth, she revealed a red candle. "I found it in the attic," she said. smiling like she'd discovered buried treasure. Her grin faded when she added, "It was inside a wooden box, locked. I had to smash it open. The candle was strange. Too red. Red like fresh blood, like muscle stripped bare. Its wax seemed to pulse faintly as though it were alive." Kelsey clapped her hands. "Perfect. A séance." I wanted to leave right then, but my pride chained me in place. We sat in a circle. The farmhouse groaned as though it knew what we were about to do. Brianna lit the candle. The flame was wrong. It didn't flicker. It bent, reaching toward us like a tongue tasting the air. The shadows it cast moved too much, stretching across the walls like broken limbs. "Ask it something," Kelsey whispered. Her voice trembled. "No," I muttered. My throat was dry. "We shouldn't," but Brianna already had. "Is someone here with us?" The candle hissed. The flame stretched taller, thin as a needle. Then whispering, not from one direction but everywhere. From the walls, the floorboards, the air itself. 1,000 voices breathing secrets. Kelsey clutched my arm. Did you hear?" The whispers grew louder, forming words. They weren't in English, not exactly. They were too old, too broken. Yet somehow, I understood. "Let us in." Brianna's face glowed red in the candlelight. Her eyes were wide, her lips parted. She was breathing fast, too fast. And then, she inhaled sharply as if the flame had entered her lungs. Her body stiffened. The candle sputtered, and the whispers stopped. "Bri?" I reached for her shoulder. Her head snapped toward me, too fast, too sharp. Her eyes weren't hers anymore. They were black, glassy, like tar had filled them, and she smiled. The farmhouse changed with her smile. The air grew heavy, pressing down on us. The fireplace roared without fuel. The wallpaper peeled in strips, curling like burning skin. Kelsey screamed. She ran for the front door. It wouldn't open. Not even an inch. The knob was ice cold and the wood shook as though something enormous leaned against it from the outside. I turned back. Brianna, or what wore her skin, stood slowly. Her joints cracked like breaking branches. The candle's flame bent toward her, feeding her, wrapping her in its glow. Her voice when she spoke was layered, hundreds of voices stacked together. "One of you is mine," Kelsey cried, banging on the door. Stop it, please." I grabbed her hand, pulling her away, but the house itself fought us. The walls seemed closer, the ceiling lower. The farmhouse was shrinking, trapping us. Brianna laughed. No, not laughed. She shrieked, a sound so sharp my ears rang. Windows shattered inward, showering us with glass. The wind carried whispers through the broken panes. Stay, stay, stay. I dragged Kelsey toward the kitchen, searching for another exit. The back door was there, thank God, but when we tried it, the handle writhed like a snake, burning our hands. Behind us, footsteps. Slow, deliberate. Brianna's voice crawled through the dark. "You lit it." "You called me?" "Now you belong." I couldn't breathe. Every instinct screamed to run, but there was nowhere left to run. Kelsey snapped. She grabbed a shard of glass and charged Brianna. The shard sank into her chest. Deep, Brianna didn't flinch. She only looked down at the glass sticking from her ribs, tilted her head, and laughed. Wrong body. Her hand shot forward, clutching Kelsey's throat. I'll never forget that sound. The wet, choking gasp as Kelsey's feet left the ground. Her face turned purple. Her eyes bulged. And then the candle's flame flickered and slid into her. Kelsey's body convulsed. She went limp. Brianna dropped her like a doll, and then they both stood. Both smiling. Both eyes black. I was the only one left. I stumbled up the stairs, my lungs burning. The floorboards bent under me, splintering. The house howled, alive and furious. Every room I passed was wrong. The furniture was twisted. Portraits bled from their frames. Doors breathed, opening and closing with wheezing sighs. I found myself in the attic. Of course, the attic where the candle had been found. Boxes rotted in the corners. The roof sagged. And in the middle, another box. Identical to the first. Empty. The candle didn't belong here. It belonged somewhere else. The steps creaked behind me. Brianna's voice, Kelsey's voice, hundreds of voices, all together rose from the stairs. You can't hide. We live in you now. I was shaking so badly I could barely think. My eyes landed on the broken window at the far end. Outside, the field swayed under the moonlight. Escape. I ran. The glass tore into my skin as I dove through. My body hit the cold earth outside hard. My vision blurred. But the night air, it was real. It was mine. The farmhouse loomed above me, its windows glowing red. Inside, I saw them. 2 figures watching, smiling. I ran until the cornfield swallowed me. I ran until my legs gave out. That was 3 years ago. I was the only survivor. The police found the farmhouse burned to the ground, nothing left but ashes. No sign of Brianna. No sign of Kelsey. No sign of the red candle. They didn't believe me. They called it trauma, shock, hallucination. But I know the truth. Because sometimes, late at night when I wake up sweating in the dark, I smell smoke. And at the foot of my bed, I see a faint red glow. A candle. It flickers. It bends toward me, and from the shadows, 2 voices whisper in unison. One of you is mine. I should have never agreed to that sleepover. I should have listened when her parents warned us. But when you're 17, rules sound like dares. And dares, well, dares can kill you. It was the summer before college. Our last summer of being kids, even though we pretended we were grown. There were 3 of us that night. Me, Claire, and Sophie. We'd been best friends since middle school, bound by secrets, gossip, and the unshakable bond of teenage promises. Claire lived in the biggest house I'd ever seen in real life. 3 stories tall with slanted windows that looked like watching eyes. Her parents were going away for the weekend and she begged us to stay over. We didn't hesitate. The house sat on the edge of town, wrapped in trees that creaked in the wind. Old, heavy. A place that looked like it had absorbed every whisper and scream over the decades. When we got there, her mom gave us the rules. No alcohol. No sneaking out. And then, her voice dropped low like the walls themselves might be listening. Do not under any circumstances open the room at the end of the upstairs hallway. We laughed. Of course we laughed. It sounded like something from a horror movie. Claire rolled her eyes and muttered, "It's just storage." Her mom didn't smile, didn't blink. Lock the door. Don't go near it, and if you hear anything from inside, ignore it. I swear the air in the room shifted when she said that, like the walls tightened, like the house itself had been waiting for those words. Then they left. And the 3 of us were alone. At first it was normal. Music blasting through Claire's speakers. Pizza boxes on the coffee table. Soda cans lined up like trophies. We painted our nails. Watched movies. Told secrets in the dark. But somewhere around midnight the laughter faded. The house groaned louder than before. The air felt heavier, like dust settling in our lungs. That's when we heard it. Knock, knock, knock. All 3 of us froze. It was faint, distant, but clear, coming from upstairs. Claire muted the TV. The sound came again. 3 knocks, slow and deliberate, like someone waiting to be let out. Sophie's face went pale. "Tell me that's not the room," she whispered. Claire forced a laugh. "It's an old house, pipes, wood shifting, whatever." But none of us believed it. We tried to ignore it. Turned the movie back on. Turned the volume up. But the knocking grew louder. Bang, bang, bang. We looked at each other. No one smiled now. No one spoke. Finally, Sophie whispered, "What's in that room, Claire?" Her answer was too fast. Storage. Just storage. But her voice shook. Another sound followed. Not knocking this time. Scratching. Fingernails dragging across wood. Slow. Long. Like something locked inside was clawing its way out. I stood. "I don't like this." Sophie stood too. "Me neither. I'm not staying here if something's..." Then we heard it. A voice. From upstairs, muffled, hoarse. "Please, let me out." We froze. Every muscle in my body screamed to run. But none of us moved. Because the voice, it sounded like Claire. I turned to her. But she was sitting right beside me, eyes wide. Face drained of color. "Claire," Sophie whispered. That sounded like you." Claire shook her head violently. No, it's not. Don't listen to it." But the voice came again. Clearer this time. "Please, I'm stuck. Let me out. I'm so cold." It was Claire's voice. Perfectly. Like she was upstairs, trapped behind that locked door. Sophie grabbed my arm. "Something's wrong. This isn't normal." I whispered the truth we were all thinking. "That's not storage." We argued in frantic whispers. "Leave. Call someone. Stay put." But curiosity is cruel, and fear twists it into something reckless. In the end, we decided to check. Not because we wanted to, but because we had to. Because if we didn't, we'd never sleep again. We crept upstairs together. Every step creaked. Every shadow seemed to move when we weren't looking. At the end of the hall, the door waited, tall, heavy, dark wood, scratched with deep gouges like something had tried to claw its way out before. The knocking had stopped. The scratching, too. Silence pressed in around us, thicker than the walls. Claire pulled a key from her pocket. I didn't even know she had it. Her hands shook so badly she almost dropped it. "Last chance," she whispered. Do we open it?" Sophie answered. Her voice was trembling, but steady enough. "We already came this far." The key turned. The lock clicked. The door swung open and the smell hit us, rot, damp earth, rust, like a grave that had been disturbed. The room was dark. Our phone flashlights cut thin beams through the shadows. At first it looked empty. Just bare walls, peeling wallpaper, and a rotting floor. Then we saw her, a figure in the far corner, curled up, shaking, long hair matted over her face, skin pale, almost gray. "Please," she whispered. Her voice was soft, broken, but it was Claire's voice. "Please, help me. I've been here so long, my blood turned to ice." Because the real Claire was still standing next to me. Sophie gasped. "What the hell?" The figure lifted her head, and I swear to God, it was Claire. The same face, the same eyes, but wrong, too pale, too hollow, like a reflection pulled from a nightmare. The real Claire stumbled back. No, that's not me. That's not..." The thing in the corner smiled. Her smile, and then she began to crawl toward us, her limbs bent wrong, elbows jutting, knees cracking. The sound of bones grinding echoed in the small room. She moved fast. Too fast, we screamed. The real Claire slammed the door shut. We threw our weight against it. Something slammed from the other side, rattling the frame. The wood groaned, splintered, and then silence. We didn't move, didn't breathe. Finally, Claire turned the key again. Locked it. We ran downstairs, our hearts pounding like hammers. None of us slept. We sat huddled in the living room, lights blazing, waiting for dawn. When the sun finally rose, Claire's parents came home. We told them everything. The knocking, the scratching, the thing that looked like her. They didn't seem surprised. Not shocked, not confused, just tired. Her mom put a hand on Claire's shoulder. "It's getting stronger," she said softly. "Every generation it gets stronger." We begged them for answers. They wouldn't give them. All her dad said was, "The room stays locked, always." That was the last sleepover we ever had at Claire's house. She stopped inviting us, stopped talking about it, stopped talking to us, really. A month later, her family moved away. No warning, no goodbye. Just gone. Sophie and I tried to forget. We tried to pretend it was some twisted dream. But sometimes, late at night, I still hear it. The knocking, the scratching, the voice that sounds like Claire. And the truth is, I don't think whatever's in that room was trapped. I think it was waiting, and I think, when we opened that door, we let it out. The Holloway Museum wasn't like the ones you'd see in big cities. It was small, tucked into a quiet neighborhood, more like a mausoleum than a museum. Most of its exhibits were oddities from donations. Fossils, old farm tools, a stuffed wolf, Victorian dresses. Nothing valuable, nothing worth stealing. At least that's what I thought. On my first night, the manager, Mr. Dalton, gave me the rundown. Walk the halls every hour, check the cameras, don't touch the exhibits. He paused before adding, and don't stare too long at the mannequins. I thought he was joking. I laughed. He didn't. That should have been my first warning. The mannequins were part of an exhibit called the Hollow Eyes. They were life-sized figures, each dressed in clothing from different centuries. Pilgrims, soldiers, nurses, farmers. Their faces weren't painted, just smooth, pale plaster. No mouths, no eyes. Just hollow indents where features should have been. They made my skin crawl. But I told myself it was harmless. Just props. By the third night, I noticed something strange. One of the mannequins wasn't where it had been. It was a woman in a long black funeral dress, bonnet covering her head. On Monday, she was standing near the stairs. By Wednesday, she was closer to the exhibit center. I figured maybe staff had moved her. But when I asked Mr. Dalton the next morning, he frowned. "No one's touched them in years," he said flatly. That night, I checked the cameras, nothing. The mannequins never moved on screen. But when I walked the halls, they weren't in the same place. Friday night, I heard it for the first time. I was doing rounds near the mannequins when a sound brushed past my ear, like someone whispering from just behind me. I froze. The mannequins stood silently in their places, blank faces turned toward me. "Hello?" I whispered silence. I shook it off, kept walking. But halfway down the corridor, I heard it again, closer. I spun around. The woman in the funeral dress was directly behind me, her hollow face tilted toward mine. I stumbled back, nearly falling. My flashlight beam cut across her empty face. Still plaster, still lifeless. I ran back to the security office, heart hammering. Checked the monitors. She hadn't moved. On the cameras, she was still across the room, but I knew what I'd seen. I told myself it was fatigue. Hallucinations from lack of sleep, until Saturday. That night, the mannequins were different. They weren't just shifting positions anymore, they were watching. Wherever I walked, their hollow indent faces seemed angled toward me. No pupils, no lids, just carved out sockets. Yet I could feel their gaze. At one point, I tripped over a loose tile. My flashlight clattered across the floor. When I picked it up, I swore one mannequin had leaned forward, like it had been bending down to watch me. My hands shook as I returned to the security office. The cameras showed nothing. Always nothing. I couldn't explain it. By midnight, I decided to call Dalton. "Something's wrong with the mannequins," I blurted as soon as he answered. He was silent for a long moment. Then he said, "Stay in the office. Don't go near them." Click. He hung up. I stared at the phone. My skin crawled. Around 2 a.m., the office door rattled. Someone was outside, turning the knob. But I had locked it. The rattling grew violent, shaking the door in its frame. Then, silence. I pressed my ear to the door. Nothing. When I turned back toward the monitors, my stomach dropped. Every mannequin was gone. I don't know why I left the office. Maybe curiosity. Maybe stupidity. The halls were empty. The exhibit stood silent. The mannequins had vanished, but as I walked past the glass cases, I saw faint handprints smeared across them. Not painted hands, real wet smears, like someone had pressed bloodied fingers along the glass. The air grew colder the deeper I went. My breath fogged. My flashlight flickered, then I saw it. The woman in the funeral dress stood at the far end of the hall, except now her face wasn't blank anymore. 2 black sockets gaped where her eyes should have been, and inside those hollows, something moved, crawling, shifting. I staggered back. She stepped forward, slow, deliberate. Behind her, the other mannequins emerged from the dark. Dozens of them, all with hollow sockets, all turning toward me. I bolted. My footsteps thundered through the halls, echoing too loud. The mannequins followed. Not running, gliding. Their feet didn't lift. Their plaster faces leaned forward, empty eyes hungry. I reached the main entrance. Yanked the doors, locked. Every exit I tried locked. The building wouldn't let me leave. Desperate, I sprinted upstairs. Toward the archives, maybe a window. The mannequins filled the stairwell below, heads tilting in unison, faceless mouths opening, though no sound came. At the end of the hall, I found one window unlatched. I shoved it open, cold air rushing in. I climbed onto the ledge, then froze. Reflected in the glass was my own face. Except my eyes were hollow. I don't remember jumping. I only remember waking up in the hospital. The doctor said I broke my arm in the fall. They found me unconscious on the museum lawn. Mr. Dalton visited once. He leaned close and whispered, "You looked at them too long." Then he left and I never saw him again. The police dismissed my story. They said I panicked, fell, imagined the rest. But at night, when the lights go out and the room grows quiet, I see them. Figures in the corners, still as mannequins. Watching, and sometimes, just sometimes, when I look in the mirror, my reflection stares back with hollow eyes.